study was, and William Hague says we pour more weapons into Syria to make us safe and save the humanitarian crisis. How ridiculous is that? There was a study brought out by Amanda Ike, and it showed that a 1% increase in the refugee population gives rise to an 18% increase in terrorism. And we see the effects of that spreading across Africa. Many of the operatives, and in Syria, who came from the Libyan conflict and other conflicts. So let's talk about Bilderberg and the criminal bankers. Represented at Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs were responsible for a number of frauds, crimes, market manipulations. And if you read The Great American Bubble Machine, written by Matt Taibbi in Rolling Stone a few years ago, you'll get a very good flavour for Goldman Sachs. In addition to the bailout of the banks in America of $800 billion, there was $182 billion given to AIG, an insurance company that underwrote credit default swaps. Goldman Sachs was at the meeting that agreed the bailout of AIG and was the beneficiary to the tune of $13 billion of the bailout money. It was also subject to a legal case for subprime fraud, betting against their own clients. Criminal activity, nobody's gone to jail for that. They also put together a swap, a currency swap for Greece, in order that they could get into the euro, qualify for euro membership, to make it look as though Greece met all the conditions. Clearly it didn't, as we've seen subsequently. And who are Goldman Sachs? Peter Sutherland was Goldman Sachs, head of the World Trade Organization and now a Bilderberger. Mario Monti, the unelected Prime Minister of Italy, was from Goldman Sachs. We have Robert Rubin, Clinton's Treasury Secretary, who dismantled Glass-Steagall and allowed commodity speculation by banks. We have HSBC, who were found guilty of money laundering on behalf of drug cartels and terrorists. They are at Bilderberg today. We have Barclays manipulating LIBOR, Marcus Agius, who had to step down through embarrassment. He's up at Bilderberg today. I also want to talk a bit about David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller and the Rockefeller Foundation are behind the World Wildlife Fund. So all you people who think of cuddly pandas and the like, you need to be aware of how you are being manipulated. And climate change is a manufactured threat to control the population. We are in the business of perpetual war to implement the shock doctrine. If you've not read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, I suggest you do. It was implemented in Chile, overthrowing a democratic government at Allende to replace him with the tyrant Pinochet. It was implemented in Iran to put in the Shah of Persia, again taking out a democratically elected government. But more importantly, these are all the symptoms of a political economy that goes back centuries. The Bilderbergers of old took the land from the people, and it is that privatization of land and resources that has so traumatized society today. We are disconnected from the land, and we need to get the land back in common ownership. On top of the land fraud was the money fraud, where we are charged for the use of money, interest-bearing money. Interest is one of the biggest eels in our society. It allows the leverage to build these massive corporations. It discounts our future. A forest is worth more in the form of sawn timber today than it is standing in 1,000 years' time. It is interest which drives environmental destruction. Everything else is just noise. You can put in all the environmental controls in the world, and as long as discounted cash flow is the mechanism to value future income receipts, you will destroy our future. The final fraud, which was added during the Industrial Revolution, having taken people off the land and taken away their means of survival, and having charged them for the use of money, which means that those who have money can exploit those without it, and we know it drives inequality, it's proven, it's mathematical. The other thing that they did was convince us that in order to qualify for the privilege of living on this planet, we have to have a job. So those parasites who are earning money from interest and rent can live off the back of the rest of us, but we are expected to graft at meaningless, destructive jobs. Technology has given us wonderful advantages, but they are not being shared. The concept of full employment in this day and age is an absolute nonsense. We don't need all the jobs that are done. We don't need arms manufacturers. We don't need people counting carbon emissions. We don't need accountants organising tax fraud. We can do without all of that. So finally, I just want to leave you with a message. And that message is that we cannot rely on leaders. And it's very natural to look at someone who speaks well or looks the part and think they're going to be our salvation. They are not. We are all corruptible. All of us. It's a human failing. Maybe for the best possible intentions we will all do the wrong things given sufficient power. We need the power and we need the knowledge. So we need sufficient income to survive without grafting 5 days a week, 9 till 5. And we need to take an interest. Knowledge is power. And we can take the power once we understand the way the world works. So do your research. The Critical Thinking Project website is freecriticalthinking.org. Don't listen to what I say. I am not the fountain of wisdom, but there are sources there. You can follow the chain. Beware of misinformation. There's plenty of misinformation around, but talk to people, share information. If we understand the nature of the problem, we can destroy this corrupt system. There is a new age emerging, and this is it. Thank you very much.